The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home from the office, the wipers of my aging Volvo working overtime. I was mentally running through the grocery list. It was my turn to cook, and I was planning a simple pasta dish. My life, at 43, was deliberately uncomplicated. I was a structural engineer, a profession I found both challenging and rewarding. My wife Tiernan was a talented graphic designer, and we lived in a comfortable, if slightly cramped, Victorian house in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We'd been married for 15 years, and while the initial spark had mellowed into a warm, steady flame, I believed we were happy. That night, however, the flame flickered, then threatened to extinguish altogether. It started with a misplaced receipt. As I emptied my pockets onto the dresser, a crumpled piece of paper fell out. It was from a small, upscale boutique place Tiernan occasionally frequented. I picked it up, intending to toss it, but the total caught my eye: $850. That was a lot even for Tiernan. Curiosity, a rare visitor in my usually even-tempered mind, got the better of me. I smoothed out the receipt. The items listed were all lingerie, expensive, lacy things that Tiernan rarely wore. In fact, I couldn't recall the last time she'd bought anything like this. A knot began to form in my stomach. I decided to wait to observe. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was a gift for a friend, or perhaps she was planning a surprise for me. I tried to convince myself of these possibilities, but a nagging unease persisted. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle changes in Tiernan's behavior. She was more distant, more preoccupied. She spent more time on her phone, often excusing herself to take calls in another room. She started going to the gym more frequently, which was unusual, and her explanations felt rehearsed. One evening, while Tiernan was supposedly at a networking event for her work, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I snooped. I know it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but the anxiety was eating me alive. I started with her phone. It was password protected, of course, but I knew her birthday. I felt a surge of guilt as I typed it in, but the lock clicked open. I scrolled through her messages, my heart pounding in my chest. There were dozens of texts from an unknown number, filled with suggestive emojis and veiled innuendo. My blood ran cold. Then I saw the photos. They were explicit, intimate pictures of Tiernan with another man. My world tilted on its axis. I staggered back, clutching the phone, gasping for air. The man in the photos was someone I knew, or at least knew of. His name was Jasper, a freelance photographer who occasionally collaborated with Tiernan on her projects. He was younger, more conventionally attractive than me, with a slick, confident air that always rubbed me the wrong way. I felt a wave of nausea, followed by a burning rage that threatened to consume me. I didn't confront Tiernan immediately. I needed time to process, to formulate a plan. I spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions of my life while a storm raged inside me. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the images in my mind, torturing myself with the details of their betrayal. I confided in no one. I was too ashamed, too humiliated to admit what had happened. I felt like a fool, a cuckold, the last to know about his own wife's infidelity. Finally, I decided to confront her. I waited until she was home, relaxed and unsuspecting. I poured us both a glass of wine, trying to appear normal, but my hands were shaking. "Tiernan," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "I need to talk to you about something." She looked at me, her expression unreadable. "What is it, Eliazar?" I took a deep breath. "I know about Jasper," I said, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Her face paled. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. "I saw the messages, the photos," I continued, my voice rising in anger. "How could you do this to me? To us?" Tiernan burst into tears. She began to stammer out excuses, apologies, but I wasn't listening. I was too hurt, too angry to hear anything she had to say. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she still loved me, but the damage was done. The trust was shattered, the foundation of our marriage irrevocably broken. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. "I want you out of this house." She begged me to reconsider, to give her another chance, but I was adamant. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget what she had done. Tiernan moved out the next day, taking only her clothes and a few personal belongings. The house felt empty, hollow, like a tomb. I spent the next few weeks in a state of numb despair. I went to work, but I couldn't concentrate. I came home to an empty house, filled with memories of what we had lost. I considered seeking therapy, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. The shame was too overwhelming. Then one day I received a strange email. It was from an anonymous address containing a single attachment, a folder of documents. I hesitated, then clicked on it. The documents were financial records, bank statements, and contracts, all related to Jasper's photography business. As I scrolled through them, I noticed something odd. Many of the invoices were inflated, the expenses exaggerated. There were also several suspicious transactions, large sums of money being transferred to offshore accounts. It became clear that Jasper was involved in something illegal, something far more serious than adultery. A plan began to form in my mind. I wouldn't seek revenge on Tiernan. She was already suffering the consequences of her actions. But Jasper deserved more than just a broken heart. I spent the next few weeks meticulously gathering evidence, documenting Jasper's fraudulent activities. I contacted a lawyer, a discreet and ruthless professional who specialized in white-collar crime. He was impressed by the evidence I had collected and agreed to represent me. We filed a complaint with the IRS, outlining Jasper's tax evasion and money laundering schemes. The wheels of justice turned slowly but surely. The IRS launched an investigation, and soon Jasper's business was under intense scrutiny. He panicked, desperately trying to cover his tracks, but it was too late. The evidence was overwhelming. Finally, the hammer fell. Jasper was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. He faced a long prison sentence and the complete ruin of his career. I watched the news reports with a grim satisfaction. I had exacted my revenge, not with violence or malice, but with cold, hard justice. Tiernan contacted me after Jasper's arrest, her voice filled with remorse and regret. She claimed she had no idea about Jasper's illegal activities, that she was just as shocked as I was. I didn't know whether to believe her, but I didn't care. Our relationship was over. She had made her choice, and she had to live with the consequences. I eventually sold the house in Cambridge and moved to a small town in Vermont. I needed a fresh start, a clean break from the past. I found a new job, a new life, and slowly began to heal. The scars of Tiernan's betrayal would always be there, but they no longer defined me. I had survived, I had rebuilt, and I had found a measure of peace. The rain still fell, but now I could see the sun breaking through the clouds. A few years later, I received a letter from Tiernan. She was living in California, working as a waitress. She was struggling, she wrote, but she was trying to make amends for her mistakes. She asked for my forgiveness, not for her sake, but for her own. I thought about it for a long time, then I wrote her back. I told her that I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I needed to let go of the anger and resentment that had consumed me for so long. It wasn't a reconciliation, but it was a form of closure. I finally felt free. Life is unpredictable, full of unexpected twists and turns. Betrayal is a cruel and devastating experience, but it doesn't have to define you. You can survive, you can rebuild, and you can find happiness again. It takes time, it takes courage, and it takes a willingness to let go of the past. But it is possible. I am living proof.